So hi everyone, thank you to Elcrig for enabling Lincolnshire to come along today and to share with you our successes that we've achieved through working together collectively and also an inclusive environment where all our team can thrive. So for me, the key ingredient to enable us to work successfully together is the culture, and it's how we do things around here. And it's for me to own that and to model that and to, make sure that that behaviour is applied across the whole services. And how we do things around here is working successfully with our partners as well, and we've got Alistair joining us today. Collaboration, again, working together. So our primary function is to make sure that we achieve value for money and we maximise the spend on the ground for our residents. We align our messages as a team. Balfour's, our other partners that are here today, and I'm going to move on to a charter that we developed on the next slide. But how we communicate our messaging, how we make sure that our teams understand that we work collectively is through our Lincolnshire Highways Partnership, LHP 70 as we call it. And we all come together, Balfour Beatties, COLAS and WSP, and we work jointly on projects together, how we can improve the services, how we can have efficiency. But it is truly working together. On here, what you'll see is a charter like I've talked about where we'd work together. You'll see our other partners are on there. Our behaviours and values, what we expect, and as I say, for me, I own those as well as the team. We work very inclusively. We've also identified what good looks like, what we expect, but then also in very plain English, what won't be tolerated. And there's some down there that probably bring a smile to people's face, but we all know it happens in the working environment where we won't make it personal, weaponising issues for our own means or inflated egos. We actually call out that wrong behaviour, and that then enables us to work effectively together to ultimately deliver the best service possible for our residents.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you. Done the opposite. So Karen's run through sort of people and leadership. I was just going to run through some of our shared objectives and environment and just make that point that collaboration doesn't happen by chance, and it's about setting up that environment to generate and incentivise that to happen. So at Lincolnshire County Council, we're obviously really keen as the local authorities in the maintenance sector to do long-term contracts. You need that time to develop those relationships and invest in that. We have a set of overarching key performance indicators at Lincolnshire County Council that are linked to our corporate plan. It's that golden thread down to our PIs and down to the supply chain partners. So the contractual mechanisms are there and they're established that incentivise that multi-party collaboration, which is part of the NEC. Within the actual contracts themselves, we've got a number of mechanisms so that when Lincolnshire County Council, as an equal partner to that contract, we have a set of performance indicator, our good or bad performance ultimately impacts that incentivised model for each of the other partners. And that's just identifying us as an equal partner in that relationship. In addition to the contractual sort of arrangements of the environment, we have a governance structure where we've combined our working groups. So we've got an innovation, a performance, communication and people working groups. And they've got representations from all the partners on the screen there. In addition to that, we have a strategic and executive boards, again, equally split across the representation of the parties. A few other bits that we do well, I think, at Lincolnshire County Council. Our strategic objectives, again, they're mapped through from the corporate plan. We've obviously introduced at this contract launch a collaboration charter. In our previous contract, back in 2017-18, we were one of the first authorities to get ISO 44001, and we did that without changing anything. So our governance structure, the way that we work, was already established, so that was really nice to receive. At the start of this contract, back in 2020, we literally knocked down some walls. I know it sounds a little bit cheesy, but it's what we did at our depots. We had separate teams, separate rooms for a contractor and client, and the difference that made initially was significant. In addition to that, the client team monitor our relationship scoring through all of our partners and supply chain. That's going out quarterly, just gauging that opinion and feedback, and that's something that we're going to be doing, and we bring that back to, as Karen referred to, the LHP 70. At the start of the contract, again, a lot of people insight, understanding how the management team work and how we work together. That was important. We did that as a joint phase. I know a lot of people do that at the start of a project, but we continue to revisit that as we get new members into the team. And there's obviously that early escalation. You know, any of those bubbling up or bubbling under issues, I'm on the phone to Alistair just to have that conversation, and the same with the other supply chain partners. Final one from me is just about the integrated technology. We work really well with Brightly. We've got that as our established platform, and by chance, Balfour Beatty also use that as their corporate system, but making sure people can communicate clearly and openly is essential for me. So I'm going to hand over to Alistair now, who's going to run through some good collaboration where we've done in the past.
Thanks, Jonathan. Yeah, for me, I get the fun part in all this, really, to explain some of the work we've been doing in Lincolnshire, which has been, we started off the journey in June this year in this particular project, but it really brings together what Karen was talking around, the behaviours, and what Jonathan has just explained around the contract mechanisms. In essence, both of those things get brought together in the same room, and we're able to deliver certain projects like this. So, day in the life of, you've probably guessed what it's all about, but in Lincolnshire we love our data. We've got lots of it, and we've got a work sort of management system that we're able to pull lots of data from and manipulate and do what we need to do. And there's an awful lot of data that we've been harvesting over the years around efficiency and productivity. Some dashboards are just up there on the screen at the moment, and the interesting thing about data is that it gives you some really, really good insights into how the service is being delivered. But what it doesn't really do is answer a lot of the questions in between. So collectively, we were asking a lot of questions, but not really be able to answer many of them. So we came up with a day in the life of. And effectively, what this was it was a period of over 5 weeks on the contract in June and July, where there were 20 different sessions that engaged councillors, highways officers, Balfour Beatty team members, where they all went out together and spent a full day with the frontline workforce. Probably outnumbered some of those frontline workforce sometimes, but what we tried to do there is, across all these sessions that we held, is really understand what the blockers were and the challenges were with the frontline, and what was stopping us delivering a more efficient and productive service. So there were some criteria that we wanted to capture, because in the true essence of data capture, we wanted some common data sets that we were going to look at after the sessions that we'd done. But more importantly, it gave us a real opportunity to talk to the people delivering the work on the ground, the supply chains, the traffic management companies, etc. So what we did is we focused on the reactive service. It's a particularly challenging part of the service, extremely reactive in some parts, and some parts a little bit more planned. We really focused on probably what 95% of the defects on the network account for, which is the carriageway and the footway potholes. But we also included some of the civils crews as well, looking at the challenges that they had. We captured the common data sets. We got 4 separate depots in the Lincolnshire contract. And at any one point in time, anywhere between 25 to 35 reactive crews. So there's an awful lot to capture, and there's an awful lot of good practice even within the same contract, but maybe not spread across it. But for me, one of the real benefits of sticking my boots on and getting out there and working the guys, and it can't be underestimated how difficult it is to operate a whacker plate. But it's just having those conversations and understanding what the blockers were for them. So very quickly we came up with really what this was telling us was there was 5 key areas that we had opportunities to improve on. By far the biggest one was traffic management, an absolutely incredible, important part of what we have to do out there to protect road users and the workforce. But it was the way we were scheduling it, the way we were deploying it, some of the techniques we were using as well. We've really sort of worked on that area, because that was clearly, from the data, one of the biggest areas that we had to improve. Scheduling and planning, looking at how people set people to work, material management, and also planning for change, because there's always a surprise out there where things can't quite go to plan. In terms of the depots, this is just really around good practice and materials management. Ops delivery was around vehicles, so some of the actions we've taken away already from this is changing some of the vehicles that we utilise on the contract. And a really important one is contractor identified faults, where the contract scope allows us to actually make a decision to carry out a defect out there that may have not been raised. That is really a powerful opportunity to improve public perception. And obviously the information, there's huge amounts of information flowing between our teams, and it was really identified that there's probably a lack of consistency in some of that in certain depots. So taking action, really the next steps, that was just the start, but really we've created lots more action plans out of this, and in true collaborative style, the real benefit for me in this is the workshops that have happened subsequent to the sessions, where the lead portfolio holder and councillors have got involved in these discussions around how we can change the service, positively challenging each other, pushing each other as to what opportunities are there to take forward, and also supported from the streetworks teams, which, as I mentioned, traffic management was important, and they've got on board too. So that's a quick update from me. I'll hand you over to Richard.
Thanks, Alistair. I was out on one of those day in the life visits, and now is probably a good time to tell you I did break one of your wheelbarrows. I haven't mentioned that until now. I think I've got 0 minutes to do my bit, so I'm going to talk really fast. I could talk about this for 5 hours, so if anyone wants to catch me or any of us later on, then please do whilst we're networking. But I've got the nerdy bit. I think, as Karen said, the most important thing in all of this is culture, but we do still need the intelligence and the tools and the information to be able to collaborate well. Even with the best intentions, you need that. So I'm going to do a kind of show rather than tell. My slides are going to be photos of things. I won't talk too much about how the sausage is made, but hopefully it's some food for thought. In terms of one source of the truth, over the last year we've built, those of you that use Power BI will probably be familiar with that's a Power BI app. We've got data flows running from our asset management system, Confirm. And essentially, we have built everything that we're doing in terms of scheme selection around inquiries within our asset management system, not public inquiries, but our own internal inquiries across all of our different highways teams. And we can use mobile technology to mean that scheme, that forward planning scheme, is from boots on the ground on a tablet device, an engineer changing the value scheme estimate, that being within the system within minutes and presented to everyone looking at it in one source of the truth within a day. That will be updated all the way through to how we do our forward programming, and we bring all of the teams together to feed into that. So just to illustrate that is a screenshot of the live system. It's our leader's electoral division filtered by, so that's a way of us telling our leader what schemes we're planning to do across all different work schemes over the next 3 years. I wouldn't expect that to be particularly exciting to anyone looking at it, but just to show what goes into those scheme briefs across the system, we've got the top 2 slides are various condition survey information from our lab. It's all brought together, things like scanner, CVI, deflectograph. That all goes in there. The slide on the right of the screen is our insurance claim, public inquiry, and reactive sort of potholing works. That's all fed into it, and we kind of weight those as well to come up with scores for all of our different schemes. But also because we're using one system to kind of bring everything together, the photos on the bottom, there's a screenshot there of Vaisala Road AI, which we use. The local office will put a link in the inquiry to the Road AI footage. There's a photograph that they've taken while they've been stood there. And then there's a shot from Confirm Web where our contractors can see into the same system and make comments on things. So we bring all of that together. We sit in a room and do all of our forward planning together, and we've got a system that, because it's cloud-based, we can involve our contractors and even our supply chain partners like Keeley Group in what we're hoping to do, not just in an annual plan for task orders we're giving, but we're saying this is what we're hoping to do 3 years down the line. And just to illustrate that, again, that's a shot from the line system. That is our planned in situ recycling works for 2025-26 financial year. We have to make some guesstimates about what local and national budget setting will look like in those years, but we do our best. And I think the key message is that we do share that with, I share that with Alistair's teams. We want to get supply chain around the table and look at that logistically, look at what the carbon impacts of that are going to be. Is there a way that we can do that better? And that requires a degree of trust that we've probably not had before, in terms of just being open with our supply chain and all of our partners internally and externally, to accept that we can't all do it on our own. And I'm sorry we've gone a little bit over time, but that is the end of our part. So I would say anyone that's inspired by that, if you aren't doing something similar and you want to make your own system, a lot of the people that can aid you in doing that are in the exhibit halls, and you can bring all of the different tools that are available out there together to try and do something similar, and talk to us about where we can all, as you know, public and private sector, learn from each other to say, oh, have you thought about doing this? Thank you.
Thank you very much. To show your appreciation to our plan. Don't go yet. I know you've gone slightly over time, but I have been given permission that we can take a question. So first of all, I want to thank you all for a fascinating insight to the collaborative work that we can do. And I'm sure that everyone here has learned something from it. I certainly have, and I'll be in touch. Has anyone got a question they'd like to ask our team up here? All right. Well, I can't see any hands, so thank you very much. Oh, is there a hand there? Sorry, it's Sean. Thank you, Sean.
We sat down again, so we
Yeah, just a very quick question. Sean Rooney from Oxfordshire. You talked earlier in the presentation about scoring a relationship. How do you manage that? How do you actually do that in tangible terms?
Happy to have a go at that one. So in terms of the relationship scoring, we had a workshop at the start of the contract with all partners working with an external company, just looking at what's important to us. We came up with 10 metrics, which we score from 1 to 10. We send that out via our internal management team and obviously the external partners. And it's about, for me, just monitoring the movement in each of the separate teams, and then it allows you to just dig a little bit deeper. We're trying to do the same thing with the supply chain at the moment, because it normally, when there's a pressure or an issue on contract, it flares up through these scores, and it feels like a tool more than anything to flag an issue. I think the scoring, we have stuff about our sort of stability of platforms, trusting and collaboration, and we have a number of dimensions that we score, but it's used as a method to flag an issue, and we track it quarterly throughout the life of the contract, and it allows us just to delve a little bit deeper and understand it in more depth.
And I think also it comes back to the culture. We do it, as Jonathan just said there, where we develop the 10 principles, what we want to measure ourselves against, but that is done collectively. And as Jonathan says, it gives us that trend that we can look into it. And there are occasions when we have to have that conversation, challenge each other, you know, are they working correctly together, is the right behaviours? But I think the key for us and the success of how we're moving forward is we do it collectively. It's very inclusive. And I mean, just in front of you is a lady who I work with very closely, Liz Bell. And again, it's about that really inclusive relationship where you have it on occasions to have those discussions, but for the betterment, for the contract and the culture, and ultimately our residents.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the question, Sean. So if you can show your appreciation again for the panel, thank you very much.